Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. I am Is There No One Else. I'm bringing you another build video today, this time the Stamina Dragonite. Now, I've been doing a lot of testing for Stamina Dragonite, different setups for you guys. I know, in general, like what I run isn't what everybody runs, so I've been trying to come up with alternative sets. Maybe people can't afford stuff. Some of the stuff might take a lot of AP to get. So I'm trying to find alternative stuff, and honestly, I just haven't found anything that I like close to this level. To be honest, like I've been messing around with some high damage sets. I tried Fury and 7th Legion a couple weeks ago, and if you guys watched my video on Fury and 7th Legion, I decided to try them both because on my Stamplar I was running Ravager and 7th Legion. So I was like, you know what, if I mix things around, maybe I can get this to work out pretty well. And I couldn't personally find a middle ground to be tanky enough while also still being able to do good enough damage with that setup. I just wasn't really a fan of it. I didn't feel like it was super effective. But then I tried 7th, and then I tried 7th Legion and Ravager, thinking that Light Attack, Ransack, Bash combos might be able to proc Ravager enough. That might work. Wasn't a huge fan of that. Not a huge, Clever Alchemist in a group situation is really good. Solo play, it's not as good because sometimes you have to use your pot defensively, and so it's not great in that situation. So I will be coming out with another Stamina DK build video for you guys when I find something that I really like, in case you guys don't like this setup, or you want to run something a little bit different. But these are the adjustments to my Poison Dragonite setup. This is my favorite build that I've run in this class. I think it's awesome for a lot of reasons. If you guys have not seen the other iterations of this, I'll go back and look at previous videos. I have some clips of it in action. They haven't changed sustain. They haven't changed anything like that. This setup did take a couple of tweaks. It got a couple buffs one way, and then it got a slight nerf the other way. So still very powerful in general. So I'm going to go into the gear. If you guys watch my videos, I'm going to go into the gear. I'm going to go into what we're running, and then I'm going to explain how it works, how we pull off our combos, all that stuff for you guys. So we are running 5 Morgue Tong on the front bar. We are running 3 jewelry with 2 weapon damage enchants, 1 recovery, and then we are running sword and shield, or mace and shield. Instead of the adjustment that we made, if you guys watched previous videos, instead of running poisons on our front bar, we are now running an infused weapon with a poison damage enchant. I just tested this. Infused obviously buffs your enchant. Morgue Tong, your direct damage attack, buffs the enchant as well. You will hit 10% harder with Morgue Tong on compared to with it off. So we're going to run the infused enchant. Cooldown's really low. I think this is going to give us more burst in general than the double poisons we were running. It's going to proc a hell of a lot more. I mean, basically it's like every 2 or 3 seconds. So it's always going to be up. I tested sharpened with poison damage versus infused with poison damage, and this was noticeably more damage. So it makes sense. The one-handed weapon for sharpened, obviously sharpened got a nerf. I have it right here. The one-handed weapon is cut in half as well. So instead of 5280, it was always 2600. Now it's dropped down to 1376 for one-handed shield for sharpened. So it's next to nothing. You can make that up in the CP tree really easily. So I think for one-handed shielded builds, most people are going to be running infused for that reason. We're doing the same thing for this build. It's going to make a lot of sense. As I've talked about before, you only need Morgue Tong on your front bar. We're going to be applying a lot of poison effects, and then every time we hit with a direct damage attack, this is going to do a ton of damage. As you can see, the 2, 3, and 4 piece is a lot of weapon damage and max stamina, all damage, which is great. And then because we're a Dragonite, because we can dish out so much poison damage, the 5 piece is really good for us. We're running a Maelstrom's Battle Axe on the back bar. Ours is sharpened. I have a Nirnhone one. I will test that, Nirnhone versus sharpened. They're very close. It all depends on what you want. Do you want the weapon damage against everybody, or do you want the extra penetration? I do think that the axe on the back bar is the best weapon for this build, and I'll explain why later. Maelstrom Battle Axe is the best weapon for this build. It doesn't mean that it's the only weapon. You can run any battle axe you want. You can run poisons on this back bar if you have any other axe. If you have a Morgue Tongue battle axe, that's fine. Yeah. So if you have your hands on a Maelstrom Battle Axe, that's preferred. Sharpen or Nernhode, whichever one you have. We're running 2 Tremor Scale. I want to get my hands on Spawn of Mephala. I haven't yet. Tremor Scale did get a nerf this patch. After 1 second, instead of it being instant damage, after 1 second, it then does the physical damage. It's still burst damage. It's still really effective. If you guys don't like this, you can run 2 Blood Spawn. You can run 1 Blood Spawn, 1 Kina. You can run, like I said, Mephala. Slime Craw would be another very good choice for this build. Veladreth, 1 Veladreth, 1 Kina. You can run whatever you want here, whichever you prefer. It doesn't really matter too much. I like the Tremor Scale because we're applying so much pressure with our dots, and then we're applying so much burst when Tremor Scale goes off. So it's just a really nasty combination. And then we were running 5 7th Legion. 7th Legion was a set that I recently added to this build the last time I did this. It's just a great damage set. 10% chance when you take damage to gain 500 weapon damage for 5 seconds, and it's a small heal. This is just a really, really good set. So we're running 5 Impen on the body. This is going to boost our damage when we're outnumbered. This is going to be procced all the time. We don't have to be severely outnumbered for this to be up all the time. You're going to get more weapon damage with Fury in an outnumbered fight, but with this, you will be able to use this more often again in all fights than you will with Fury. So if you're fighting one person, this will go off. You'll see your arms glow. You'll be able to time your leaps and your burst. Fury, it takes 2, 3. It takes a couple people outnumbered for you to really realize the Fury proc in order to get marginally more weapon damage. So if I remember correctly, Fury's like 720. This is 500. Yeah, so I like it for that reason. Plus the heal is great. Yeah, so 7th Legion. And then, purple jewelry, 2 recovery, or 1 recovery, 2 weapon damage. As far as the skills go, on our front bar, we are running Resolving Vigor. This is going to be our heal. Defensive Stance. This is a great skill. It reflects projectiles. What it also does is any caster that you have this up for, when they hit you, the spell reflects back and it stuns the enemy. So when you're fighting outnumbered, you put this up. If you have somebody Dark Flare spamming, the Dark Flare goes back, it hits them, it stuns them. If you have a guy hitting you with like a Crystal Frag, you can reflect it and stun them. You don't have to be next to them to CC them. That little extra time against ranged cast builds allows you to be able to heal up to full. On top of all of that added bonus, it increases the amount of damage you can block by 8%, and the cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. When we're focused outnumbered, we will be on this bar turtling up quite a bit, and this allows us to be able to block a little bit more, to protect ourselves a little bit more. We don't have movement speed, we don't have cloak, we don't have the ability to endlessly dodge roll like other builds. We have to kind of be able to just survive, and defensive posture allows us to do that. Reverberating Bash. This is our CC. It also gives the enemy Major Defile, reduce their healing received. With all of our dots we're applying and Major Defile, it's a very nasty combination. Igneous Shield, this is our Major Mending. It's a small shield. You can't be crit with the shields up. Gives us Major Mending, increases our heals. So on our front bar, we'll be hitting Igneous and then Vigor to boost our heals. And then Ransack. Ransack's our bread and butter DPS. It's a really cheap skill. It hits pretty hard. You can animation cancel it. It procs Tremor Scale, and it gives Major Fracture. So all of that works very well with this build. And then our front bar, we're also running Spell Wall. Spell Wall is the shield ulti that reflects projectiles, so this makes us a lot more tanky. If all of a sudden you come around a corner in open world and you see like 6 guys, Spell Wall will allow you to pop that, sprint, get to a spot to where you can line of sight, and potentially 1vx. This is what's going to protect us when all of a sudden we're, kind of caught open world with our pants down. On our back bar, we were running Take Flight. This is our Take Flight damage unbuffed. It goes up to about 17,000 when we buff with Rally. It's about 20,000 when we're fully buffed with 7th Legion and when our Wrath passive comes into effect. So when we're getting attacked, Wrath passive is going to stack, and then 7th Legion is going to stack. 20k tooltip on Take Flight, which is very good. We're running Venomous Claw, Noxious Breath, Rally, Critical Rush, and Reverse Slice. Now, as far as CP goes, we have 44 into Warlord, 56 Mooncalf, 32 into Tenacity. We will be doing a lot of heavy attacks with this build. They're going to give us a lot of damage. They'll proc our enchant, give us stamina back. 61 into Shadow Ward. We want to reduce the cost of block by quite a bit. 20 to Tumbling for the occasional dodge roll. A couple into Befoul. We do have healing reduction abilities with Reverberating Bash, so this helps a little bit. 27 into Bless to increase our healing. 37 Master at Arms, 8 Physical Weapons Expert, 56 Mighty, 28 into Piercing. Put a few more into this to make up for the fact that we're not running a sharpened weapon. 20 into Precise Strikes, 44 into Thaumaturge. 48 Ironclad, 20 into Resistant, 43 Hardy, 43 Ellie Defender, 34 Thick Skin, 32 Quick Recovery. Now, that's the gear. That's the setup. If you guys haven't seen my videos, I'm going to go into the explanation for why we're running it this way, why we're running these sets. But in general, what a Stamina DK has is they have tankiness and they have the ability to apply poison effects. So you have Venomous Claw and you have Noxious Breath. Two poison skills that are specific to the DK skill line. So it works very well to run a sword and board Stamina DK, even in open world. And utilizing a set like Morgue Tong, which buffs our poison damage by 10%, also helps. So some people ask, you're running Ransack and you're also running Noxious Breath. Don't they both give Major Fracture? And that is absolutely true. They both give Major Fracture. If you were running both of them just for that reason, obviously it would be a waste. But we are also running Noxious Breath because it is such a huge damage over time effect, and it is buffed so much by Morgue Tong. These two dots on our back bar, they will be buffed when we apply them and then switch to our front bar and do a direct damage effect. So these are two high damage dots available to the class. We weapon swap, we hit it with our line attack Ransack Bash. It's a lot of damage over time, and then all of a sudden if our tremor scale goes off, our poison, our enchant on our weapon is also buffed by 10%. So we now have burst that way, and then we have burst with tremor scale. And we're going to do so much damage when all of that goes off. When the tremor scale goes off, we will Reverberating Bash to CC the person, we'll leap on them, and then we will execute them. So tankiness, this build has it. Survivability, it has it. Really good damage over time effects, it has it. And then burst, this build has it. This build has everything besides movement speed, in my opinion. As far as our stats go, we're sitting at 2,500 weapon damage, 1,535 stamina recovery, 36,8 stamina, 17,000 health. That's 23,000 health in PvP, 10,000 magicka, and 2,300 crit resist. Pretty good. So pretty good stats overall. As far as how we're going to apply stuff, the other question people always say, or the other statement people say is, dots don't work in PvP, especially against Templars, because Templars can purify. That's true. Templars can purify dots, but there are there are good Templars and there are bad Templars. Bad Templars do not purify, so you're still going to affect them the same way. Good Templars, yes, they can purify our dots, but this build, we have so many dots that they have to hit purify twice, and if they're spending that much time purifying, then they're not dealing with our burst. We can kill them with our burst combos. So, our critical rush, as far as our back bar goes, we have critical rush, which is burst damage, but with Maelstrom Axe, we have a Merciless Charge enchant, which is a damage over time effect. So that's one damage over time effect. On our back bar, we also have Noxious Breath and Venomous Claw. That adds up to 3 damage over time effects. On top of that, because we're running the Battle Axe, and why I think the Battle Axe is the best, is we can also proc a Bleed Dot. So that's 4 damage over time effects just on our back bar. We're also running Ransack, which can proc, which is also Major Fracture, so that's debuff, so that's 6. It can also proc Tremor Scale. Tremor Scale has a slow to it, which is 7, and then we have Reverberating Bash, which is Major Defile, which is 8. And also on top of all that, any of these poison effects, our enchant or these 2 things, can apply a poison status effect, which is poison, I can't remember over how much time, but it's basically you do more poison damage over like 10 seconds or 12 seconds. So with this build, we have 9 potential damage over time or status effects that have to be purged by Templars. So when you're fighting somebody, you rally, you crit rush in, medium attack, claw, medium attack, breath, weapon swap, light attack, ransack, bash, tremor scale goes off, you reverb, you leap, and then you execute. That's going to be the typical combination. Most people are not going to be able to survive your crit rush, dots, light attack, ransack, bash, and then leap. And if they do, if they somehow survive all of that, they're basically on the defensive trying to get away, and now they have dots ticking on them. They now have potential axe bleed dot, they have the merciless dot, and they have the noxious breath dot. And so all these dots ticking on them are going to put even more pressure, and then you just chase them down and you execute them. So still a very effective build. Tremor Scale did get a slight nerf. There's a delay on it, but they buffed the infused enchants, so now we now have more burst with our infused enchants. So yeah, still a very strong build, guide. Still the best build that I've found that I really enjoy. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Please comment in the section below. Thank you. Have a nice day.